Good morning, gentlemen. How are we?
Morning. Good morning.
Well, welcome to the morning show. Hey, everybody. We need to thank some people before we get rolling today. GBC, they're great supporters of ATV Talk, and they do an amazing job in the industry providing tires for ATVs, UTVs, and most likely the vehicle that gets you there in transport. Um, Elka Shocks, these guys are the leaders in ATV suspension. They're doing their best to take over the UTV market and suspension as well. So if you're looking for some shocks for your ATV or your UTV, jump on those Elkas. The Blunt family, they helped us get to the Briarcliff event and sponsor the podcast. So we can't thank them enough for their support. Craig Christie and his efforts to get us where we need to be as well. He has a company that edits videos. So make sure you shout out to Craig Christie. Uh, Antelope Slot Canyon Tours, if you're in Arizona, uh, you know, book a tour. You're going to love the canyons, and they're never the same. So check those guys out. And thank you to all of our fans and supporters that are watching. Good morning, Joe Tolle. How are you? Jeff Henson, how are you, bud?
Good. How's it
Good.
going?
Neither of you guys made it to the Legends event. I'm a little disappointed that Dirt Wheels didn't fly Jeff out there on their charter jet, which we know is available at all times, being the huge conglomerate of media that they are. Um, Jeff, what have you heard about the event so far?
I just know that John Natale, who was my pick to win this thing, won both motos. So, uh, and then yeah, I followed quite a bit. It was really interesting. I was really impressed by Joe Bird's performance in his qualifier. Um, and I watched quite a bit of the video, and it seems like a lot of the guys took it very seriously, and other guys were just having a good time. But you were there. You tell us about it.
Well, I wanted to hear a little bit of the offsite information first before I got into any of the questions that you guys would have. Joe, I know that you do a little bit of review on a lot of this stuff. So what was your take on it so far?
Uh, Bummed I wasn't there. I wanted to go. Haven't heard from my buddy Leon since I wasn't there. Hopefully he's not too upset with me. I was going to go hang out with John Pellin from ATV Scene and called him Thursday before the event and said, John, where we going? What time? Blah blah blah. He came down with COVID.
So
So yeah. So there went the ATV Scene media from the event, which was a bummer. And I watched your episode one from last night, and it was like, oh, the more I watch, the more I'm like, God darn it, shoot. So yeah, would have liked to have been there. But anyway, I'll be watching your videos.
I
Learn as
felt
much.
I felt the same way when I saw what the attendance was. That's shocking. It's amazing. It's a really good sign for that many people to show up to watch an ATV event, and especially to see those old guys and stuff. It's our loss, man. We should have been there. I should have bought my own ticket and come out and just slept on the ground or something. I don't know, but yeah, we missed out on a great event, and hopefully it happens again. I don't know.
Uh, let's just get into that. I don't believe that it will happen again for a number of years
Yeah.
because of your current group of people that would go. You might get some other legends that would roll in there. Um, these guys were phenomenal. There were some people there that obviously weren't legends, but they rode and had a great time, made it a bigger gate, still performed well. They were great riders, don't get me wrong. But the seeing the people and even the people that didn't race that were there, some of the mechanics, I come from the wrench side, not the rider side, and getting to talk with them in our later videos. I don't want to be a spoiler, but in our later videos, you'll see some of the people that we got to speak to that were on the sidelines. Um, Adam McGill was there, Walker Fowler was there. These are guys are still currently racing in GNCC, and they were excited, to be there. Um, so there was just a lot of fun with that with those people. Jeff, did you get to see video one from ATV-TALK?
I just started to watch a little bit of it this morning. I saw your link to it, but that was right before we came on this morning, so I haven't watched the whole thing. I just saw your first interview that you started in that.
Yeah, it was so difficult because there were so many people to talk to. And hey, ATV-TALK crew would have accommodated both of you guys if you'd have let us know. We would have taken care of you guys because you guys are family, and I believe that the extra support we would have had in the stories that both of you would have told would have been amazing. Joe, I'll have to credit you for the way ATV-TALK is presenting this. This is from years and years of your experience and your help. This is why we're laying it out in 4 videos instead of 1 2-hour long video. Which that's my theory, you know. I mean, obviously I haven't been doing it as long as Joe has, so I have to credit him for helping us lay it out correctly. And the response so far has been excellent. John Natale did win both motos, but the only negative part to that is he rode a identical bike to Bryce Ford.
Oh, he was on yeah, you're right. Yeah.
He was on a YFC 450R with Ford Brother Racing duplicate, incredible machine. Don't get me wrong. And John Natale can still ride. He could have probably finished just out of the top 5 in the pro class race, from the lap times, from what I've heard. Same with Wimmer. That's pretty incredible stuff. Most all of the pros, the legend pros, would have qualified for the pro main.
Wow, that's impressive. I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few of their guys that would struggle a bit. You had Barry McCarty and Doug Eichner, who are on the verge of 60 years old, the oldest 2 guys on the line. And Doug rode well, but he's 60 years old, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Joe Bird did lose a lot of weight, had a spectacular time. Jeremy Osborne, I think that everybody needs to give that guy an award, do something for him, because man, the work that he did putting this all together, and just the facility was fantastic. I know, Joe, you've been there. I don't think you've ever got to go there, Jeff.
No, I haven't been to Briarcliff.
The facility was outstanding. They could have used about 15 more food vendors because the lines were 30 to 40 people deep all day Saturday. On Friday, they were, 5, 6 people deep because there were still a lot of people there. But on Saturday, we rolled in, got set up, doing our thing, and they started qualifying and practice qualifying for the legends, and the pro guys, the pro class was going after them. There was a 30-minute wait to get into the park, to get into the racetrack. And I was told by Jeremy that they ran out of parking and were parking people wherever they could find a spot to put their car.
I don't think that's a normal occurrence at an ATV national at all.
No, attendance wise, I've heard 3 different numbers. I don't know what's true because I haven't been able to sit down and really. I wanted to leave Jeremy alone a little bit. He's been hammered for the last, 3 months, 4 months. So I wanted to give him a chance to breathe a little before I start bombarding him with questions, and having him back on the show to talk about the event. Anywhere from 3,500 to 6,000 is somewhere the numbers that I've gotten. That's a big span.
Yeah, I heard 6,000 for the whole weekend, that's really big. I was surprised at that, and it really says a lot about the popularity of ATV racing still. And I know it was a special event, but I think there's some really positive signs there.
Well, what I thought was so cool is walked around doing man on the street videos, and a gentleman had bought a part from me. So I just walked up to this random guy and we do this man on the street video with him. And at the end, we start talking a little bit. And he said, "What was your name?" And I told him my name. And he goes, "Duncan?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, I'm so and so." And I go, "We just had talked 2 days before, on the phone." And I told him, "Hey, hopefully I'll see you at the race." And obviously, I didn't know who he was, so that was kind of cool. And I had other customers reach out and go, "I thought that was you, but I wasn't sure." And so it was great for ATV Talk. It was great for the company I also work for, Duncan Racing, as far as the amount of people that we got to talk to. Unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to everybody. Travis Spader, I could never seem to track the guy down in the pits. A couple of the other pros, I didn't get them talked to. Guy and just a few of the other guys that it was just too many people. I mean,
Well, then you'll have to invite him on the show.
yeah, I need to have them all on the show because, and trust me, I've sent out 30, 35 link requests for people to come on the podcast, and a few people are hitting it and scheduling dates. So we'll see some. I got to run into a phenomenal racer, Angela Moore. Women's,
Yeah,
yeah, she
I like.
dominates the women's racing. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Oh no, I like Angela a lot. I had a lot of great times with her back in the day doing the nationals with John at ATV Scene. She was always a sweetheart to me. I know some people think she can be a little bit rough, but that wasn't, she was always very nice to me. I always enjoyed her a lot. I'm bummed I didn't get to see her. I would have liked to give her a hug.
She's fantastic. I've always gotten along great with her. That's the funny thing. I've been doing this so long. I remember seeing her as a little kid playing in the dirt at Loretta Lynn's.
Some of those guys you interviewed, one thing I noticed this morning when I was watching it was like a few of those dudes don't look any different. Obviously, I've definitely have aged, and most of us do. But man, a couple of those guys, it's like you're the exact same dude 20 years ago. Like Shane Hitt doesn't look any different.
Yeah, he really doesn't. But Joe, you've always been this ugly. So.
Wow. Wow. Oh man.
Like I should talk.
Well, right. It is what it is. Yeah, there's a reason that I'm the voiceover guy and not the presenter guy, because I look like Shrek. But,
Well, I think we were putting some videos together the other day, and I think Kane kind of hinted at me that I need to keep my face out of the camera. So
wow.
That's even rougher there, man.
Wow. So basically what you're telling me is Kane punched you, so you're punching me.
Yeah, I got to take it out on somebody, and you're an easy target.
Yeah, that's fine. And for those watching at home, ATV On Demand is here to fact check dirt wheels in real time. So, yeah, you're lucky.
Yeah.
They're telling me instead of you, Joe, I need to have regular Joes on there. But and Pell Chat. Yeah, Pell Chat was one of the guys I wanted to talk to. I could never seem to track him down. I don't know him. So it was difficult. I ran into a lot of the guys that I didn't know just by accident when we were walking through the pits. That's the one thing that I wish they would have organized them and had all of the legends, in a specific set area. That would have made it much, much easier for myself to track them all down. But, the quality of the event, the amount of time that we had, we needed 3 or 4 days with these guys and all these people to talk to them and to really get into it. But Shane Hitt is still highly technical, and him and Timmy did some development work for Honda and KTM. I don't know if the people in the chat or that are listening understand all the things that they've been involved in. And you'll see in the upcoming videos, we talked to Shane and Timmy a little bit about certain things. I don't know if Timmy's interview will roll through on that, but Shane's does. And the machine difference, like Barry said, Barry will talk about it. I hopefully will put that in his, let's get everybody on 250Rs and get them out there on the track, and with no shocks and just regular 250Rs, and you see how it works for the real Legends race, because there's only a few of those guys that didn't race 250Rs.
But stock shocks?
Why not? That's what they started on, dude. That's what what it started with.
I think that would be awesome. I just wanted to I wanted to clarify that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, make it rough. Doug and Barry may opt out, but Barry McCarty is in extremely good shape. For a guy that's almost 60 years old, he's got no body fat. He's just, running around. I think he rode every practice on Friday. But that might be why he was tired on Saturday, because he rode so much on Friday. But, getting to talk with Timmy Farr, he wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't on the list. And getting his insight to why he was there. He couldn't pass up the opportunity to ride with these guys one more time. He threw a bike together, and he came out there on a Katoom and rode and looked great. Probably would have ran closer to the front, I think, if he would have rode, but he chose not to because of his nephew getting married. So that was far more important than being in the race. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun. The insight, we needed more media. There was a lot of people there producing a lot of stuff. Gloop has been posting a lot, and we're trying to get him some information. If you looked at the video with Natalie, he's just a more mature John. A little older, more refined, speaks clear. Not the rebellious kid that he used to be. But he's a good dude. I mean, I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. I was kind of hoping you guys would have some more insights from some of the videos and some of the chat that I know you guys talk to everybody in the industry. So, I mean, there's been a lot of communications back and forth after the race. I talked to Eichner, and he felt really good when he got home. He was a little bummed that he didn't do a little bit better, but I mean, come on, 60 years old.
You're 60. And the guys who finished in the top 5 were probably all in their 40s, I'm guessing.
There's a Wimmer's in his 30s. One of the other guys that raced that was in the top 5 was in his 30s. Natalie's in his 40s. Bithel's in his 40s. Some of the other guys that there's a couple of guys that were in front of Doug that are in their 50s. A couple other guys that were in their 30s as well. So no, he didn't fare that bad. If they line him up, the guys that are close, 59 and older, him and McCarty would have ran 1-2 and had a great time. Doug West, go ahead.
I was just going to say Eichner's another one of the guys I saw in your video that looks almost the same as the last time I saw him.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Stay thin, kids. Stay thin. You'll age well.
Yeah, he's it's kind of weird. I was with him all weekend. It was great to spend some time with him. He's still got a partial six pack, and he's in pretty good shape for a guy his age with all the injuries that he sustained. Yeah, it's pretty incredible that he even showed up and rode. And that's a whole story. He missed his first plane. The lady at the counter, you don't hear this. The lady at the counter handles him, gets him on another flight. He was supposed to show up in Dallas and join with us on our way out there. Well, he beat us to Columbus by 2 hours, and he missed his first plane. How does that work?
To get a direct flight?
He got a direct flight.
Yeah.
And
got to know how to schmooze.
Well, he's not the schmooze guy, you know. He must have been with this gal because he was he had it dialed, had it all wired in, and got there, and it was great. You know, as soon as we started talking, you know, the energy, the excitement. Yeah, it was just so much fun.
Hey, while we're talking about Eichner, I was texting with him a few days ago, or maybe a week ago, and asking him about getting together and going for a ride up in Prescott where he's at now. So you ought to come out, and we'll all go up there and ride. There's some really good, tight 2-track stuff that is 50-inch wide or less. You should come out. We'll all three go up there and ride.
We need to get Joe a plane ticket, and is Dirt Wheels going to provide the ATVs?
I got a YFZ.
We need to get a variety of different loaners, and yeah,
I can put a 250R together for you with stock shocks.
I was going to say, no matter what you get to loan out to the guys, if you have some loaner units, just don't loan anybody a Polaris, and you'll be okay.
Oh man, every podcast there's a jab at Polaris from Joe.
Well, I mean, when they charge you to ride their machines, if they made them a little tougher so they didn't break, then you wouldn't have a problem, right?
This is true.
You're going to send me a bill when I work for you for free. You're going to get some shit.
Right. I totally agree. With that. 223 cycles just checked in. How you doing? This is normally we have a lot of topics to talk about, and you know, we banter back and forth. You know, I'm still a little in awe of the event. So everybody asks, when are they going to do it again? Can they have this guy go? Can they have that guy go? I don't think you can recreate this. At least next year or the year after, or maybe 5 years from now, because you have a whole different group of people. You know, they didn't let Thomas Brown ride.
I just sit here and think, like, if you do it in 20 years, it's not going to be the same. It's not. It just can't be. I mean, there are so many guys that I didn't hear their names at this one. Like, was Josh Kramer there?
Nope.
There were so many factory teams from the era that these guys came from, you know, and that's one thing, Lenny, I'd like to kind of ask you your take on is, you know, looking at if we did a Legends race just from the 80s. And I mean, I know like maybe overall attendance might have been bigger back then, but you know, back then it's like you had Honda, Kawasaki, and Yamaha that might have had factory riders in the 80s. But like these guys' generation from the early 2000s, and I feel very lucky to have been there, you know, for a couple of years, and which is booming because you had factory riders for Kawasaki, Can-Am, Yamaha, Suzuki, KTM later on. Polaris had factory guys, and maybe not a Polaris rig, but every manufacturer that had a 450 had sponsored on some level factory or factory support riders. I mean, obviously it seemed like the Suzuki guys were getting really trick stuff. You know, it seemed like the Kawasaki guys, even though they were working out an ECU issue, they were getting some pretty trick stuff. I mean, you had some teams with factory riders that were getting legit parts that the general public couldn't go buy. And I don't know. How do you think the factory days of the 80s compared to the factory days of the 2000s, because I wasn't there in the 80s at those events ever, unfortunately. Would have been too young to really appreciate it. But I feel that being there in the early 2000s, like, it might have been the greatest time of the sport. And, how do you ever follow this with another Legends race? Because you do this again in 20 years, it's a whole bunch of guys that are privateers that didn't get as much TV time, that didn't get factory rides, that,
Well, if you do it again in 20 years, you'll have two factory riders, Hetrick and Wienen,
Yep.
if they decide to show up, which I would assume that they would. So here's the thing. If you go back to the 80s and the factory time, that was clearly the heyday. Yeah, Dunkelberger should have been there. Creamer should have been there, but we could roll so many names back in to the 80s, which we'll get into. Tom Carlson was there. I mean, which we'll get into that. To answer your question, Joe, the factories in the 80s were probably more factory rides with special trick parts and things that the general public never saw, never got to look at. And that was the heyday. That was the real heyday of the sport, where your entries were massive. From the privateers, you had people just showing up in pickup trucks. And, some of the pro guys showed up in pickup trucks because we didn't have these same kind of trailers and box fans and things like that. And it was just for the love of the sport. And it was new, and we didn't have, $50,000 race bikes. We had freaking bought it off the showroom floor and raced it the next day. And that's what it was. So you roll into the time frame when the factories came back in 04, 5, 6. That was great for the sport, and there were a lot of factory involvement. I don't think that you had the same amount of people showing up to race at that time. It was expensive. The economy was booming up until 2008. And then after that, the numbers started dropping off. That's why the factories ran away and left. They had too many bikes out there. So I liked that era. I didn't like that era because the factories, and this is, I'm biased. I tell you when I'm biased, they shit all over the people that built the industry. The factories did not take the people that built it and carried it on their back and take them with them. They went out and found different guys, different companies, and those are the guys that they supported and carried. And I thought that was kind of bullshit. Excuse my language, but it is what it is. Will I ever get over it? I don't know. Joe, will you ever get over Polaris? Probably not. So
I'm over it.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean, brother. So
will test what makes sense for my publication, that it's going to be profitable, and that is it.
I'm just waiting for him to build dirt wheels so Jeff can jump on the bandwagon. So that's my take a little bit on it. I think the factories will come back. I think there will be another run. I don't think ATV racing is by far in any means done. I believe it will come back. Maybe never as big as it was in the 80s, maybe never as big as it was in the 2000s, but maybe again, it may be bigger. You'll have a resurgence because people are buying sport quads on the aftermarket deal. They can't get enough. We don't have enough machines or enough bodies to build what people want to buy. I get off the phone daily with disappointed people because I can't provide them what they want right then.
Well, I think part of the problem with that you guys are in is the fact that, like a KFX 450, you could make a fun race bike out of a KFX 450. We did one years ago. The motor was very lightly modded. Now we weren't building a pro bike, so we didn't need a 50, forget 50. We didn't need a 60 something horsepower KFX to do that build. But like Texera did the A arms on our motocross build years ago. He doesn't build those arms anymore. He may do another run, I don't know, but he hasn't done a run in a long time. It doesn't plan on it because, when people are just buying onesie twosies for these bikes that weren't big sellers, that weren't extremely popular, yeah, it might still be a great bike, but guys like Duncan and Texera and insert company name, you got to build parts for what's going to sell. You can't build 20 sets of A arms and set them on the shelf if you're only going to sell 2 pairs a year. It doesn't make sense. So, I get it. That's why you can still get every part you need to build a 250R probably from the aftermarket from scratch. You could probably build one and not even use a Honda part, except some brake parts maybe. But I mean, the point I'm getting at.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're at. There's been machines that we've stopped making parts for because, the one call you get every 6-8 months isn't justifiable to spend all that money and set it on the shelf. And some people get angry with you, why don't you support the industry? I am on the machines that I can sell parts for.
Right. There's no reason to build a bunch of parts and spend a bunch of money for a machine that you're going to sell one part every 6 months. It doesn't make any sense, and it's a bummer, but it's whatever.
Correct.
Bike.
What was that, Joe? I stepped over you.
Oh, I just said buy a more popular bike if you want to be able to get performance parts.
Right. And, the thing about the Kawasaki is, it was a nice bike for the recreational crowd. For a beginner level of a CB rider, good bike, handled great. It had some quirky issues with the electrical that caused it to be a little unreliable, but the aftermarket industry tried to fix most of it. It was never going to be a machine that you could mod the engine and go out and race and it be okay. Just was not that bike. But it handled well. I spent a lot of time working on Kawasaki's because my son raced them, and we were thinking we were going to develop a platform for it, and it just collapsed because you couldn't get it to live. The more performance you built into it, the less it lived, and then the more money you spent to make it live, and it just didn't live. And when the factories couldn't make them live, we saw the writing on the wall. And no offense, went back to Hondas because they lived,
That's really odd for Kawasaki too, because everything else they do, like their 4x4 ATVs and even their UTVs, they overbuild these things with giant belt drives and everything else to where they, you could get a lot more power out of that brute force 750 engine, because it's so overbuilt. It is weird that their 450 back in the day just wasn't up to par when you start throwing money at it.
Their Takati 3-wheeler was the same way. It was a great machine.
Yeah, that's right.
Wasn't there because it would vibrate itself to death, or it would break. There's guys that had great success with them, but they still weren't the quality of a Honda. No offense. I mean, you get mad at me. Oh, hey, don't get mad at me. Get mad at Kawasaki for not stepping up to the plate. Getting back to the having another event with these guys, I just don't see you being able to pull it out of the air and make it that cool again, because unless you have a promoter that's going to dive in like Jeremy did and really dive in, it's not going to happen. There's still some things talked about behind the scenes that are supposed to go on. I don't know if there's truth to it or not, but Jeremy took it on the chin in the beginning, but he did a great job um, with setting it all up and taking care of it. You know, um, could things have been a little different? Always, we can always have hindsight, but as far as what it was, and if you take it for what it was a fantastic event, and you're just never going to recreate it. It's just like go back to 2000 when they had the TT and all those guys showed up, Marty Hart and some of those guys. You're never going to recreate that.
Yeah.
It's just, you're just not. I'm sorry. You may have another race in 10 years, let's say, with some of these guys that retired. And it'll be cool. Don't get me wrong, it'll be cool. But it'll never be like this. Somebody in the chat, Square One Speeds, talked about like a high school class reunion type deal. And that's kind of what it was. Not everybody knew everybody. You didn't get to talk to everybody. You needed more time, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I could see instead of that, like Wes doing another Huevos Invitational. I'd love to see more of those. And I know some other venues that would be perfect for it. So maybe there's that.
Well, yeah, you get those. I think a straight rhythm for 2-stroke, 4-stroke race would be freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
I just don't have the funding to back it up and make it happen. If I could do that, I would love it. But Joe won't give me the money.
I'm just greedy.
Right. Well, we already knew that. I mean, he just makes all that money. He's got more than Dirt Wheels money. That's the thing.
Oh,
I'm not saying much.
It means I'm just outside of the poorhouse into the penthouse.
I don't know about that, brother. I don't know about that.
The ATV on your palatial estate is huge.
Well, I heard it's like freaking 250 acres with, 3 tracks, an underground garage with any ATV and every ATV you'd ever want to ride, plus UTVs on top of that, and a whole crew to take care of it.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about Joe.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that's not dirt.
My collection makes binkies look small time.
Oh man. Hey, did you ever see that 3-wheeler that Binky has that has front wheel drive?
No.
He's got this, and I'm gonna have to freaking get him to, feature that somewhere. I didn't get any pictures of it like an idiot, but he's got a 3-wheeler that was a motorcycle that they turned into a 3-wheeler, obviously converted it, and it's front wheel drive and rear wheel drive, so it's both. And
I seem to remember an old Dirt Wheels article on something like that. I wonder if that's the same.
It's got a chain off the side that goes up to the front, and there's 2 cases that go down to the front wheel. And I'm just like looking at this thing, going, "This is just why." It's a manufacturer that builds stuff for our military. That they build motorcycles for the military, and I forget the name. They told me the name of it. I'll have to reach out to Binky and talk about it. Because I don't remember.
Not Christini, right?
Yeah, that's it. They built some stuff for the military. Pretty amazing stuff. You're Googling it right now, aren't you?
I was looking back at some of the stuff we have on online. What color was that machine? Because we do have a story. World's first 3-wheel drive Honda ATC, which is it looks like a dirt bike conversion.
And it's black and gray.
It's black and gray and some red.
Yep.
Pinstriping.
That's it.
Yeah.
You guys.
That was a BVC. That was a BVC build.
Really?
According to this.
It's an incredibly looking bike, man. I don't know if I'd want to try to ride it, but it's pretty awesome. So I brought up Tom Carlson, and I saw Joe get excited, um, because the old four-stroke days. He brought out, or the gentleman that owns Travis Spader's bike, the dual carbed. I don't know if it was I think it was a 250X or a 300EX, where they put the dual carbs on it. They had that there, and I don't know how they stuffed those carburetors in there. He was taking the tank off, but I was busy trying to talk to somebody else, so I didn't get to see it with the tank off to really get a real good photo of it. But that's a lot of work. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about a guy, Carlson is in his 70s now. And back in the day, he was like an innovator in the independent side that just, you took archaic design stuff and he was trying to make it modern, with dual carbs and do things like that to make it better than it was. And with low tech componentry, because now the carbs we have are so much better. Well, we used to be able to get them. Now Behind's making it difficult, but that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, I remember I talked to Wayne Meridian. We were discussing the 350X engine builds that Tom Carlson had done, and he had a 400 built 350X for Jeremy Schell, and and he was just saying that, like, off the line originally, like, they were having a little trouble getting a start, and the reason is that thing was just melting the tires off the line. It was fast, and the fact that he was able to extract that much performance out of that old, engine design. I mean, obviously the 350X engine is built like a tank. Like, you can't kill it. And he was getting stupid horsepower. I talked to Tom Carlson after I bought my Warrior. That was back in my I make mistakes and learn days. I bought a Warrior because I thought it was my first new quad. It's like, I'm a little heavier guy. I'm a little bigger guy. I should go for displacement, not even really fully understanding at that point. And I wasn't in the industry. I was a nobody. Like, oh, 2-valve, 4-valve head, like, that makes a difference. Like, it didn't mean anything to me. So I bought a Warrior, and I'd call Tom Carlson talking motors, and he's just like, I just can't you can't get the horsepower out of that thing you can get out of a 250X engine or a 300EX, just because of the exhaust length and, of course, the head. So, if I could get a 250X, like, build an old school pro 4-stroke 250 bike, that's the guy I'd want to do the motor. I mean, there's nobody else I'd rather have do an engine on one of those than Tom Carlson, because I mean, he was the man in the 250 4-stroke pro days. I'm sure there were others that competed, but it seemed like he was really the guy pushing it.
Yes. I think that at that point in time, there were a couple other guys building stuff, but off the top of my head, I can't remember who they were at this given moment. Curtis was still doing some stuff. My dad was phased out we were into the 2-strokes by that point. So my dad was phased out of some of the 4-strokes. A lot of people don't realize we were 4-stroke, 2-stroke, and now we're back to 4-strokes, and we still do as much 2-stroke work as we did back in the 80s and 90s. It's insane. I mean, I thought at one point I'd never work on another 250R again. And, yesterday I was at the shop working on 250R, unbelievable. And a 350X, to be honest with you, and a 350X. So, old school stuff is still the cornerstone of our industry. I know the YFZ 450R at some point in time will probably, take the place of the 250R on the top of the mound as, one of the greatest ATVs ever built, if not the greatest ATV ever built, because of its time spent in the industry. The more we get and the more farther we go, I mean, I have numerous along with the Banshees, the LT500s, and all the other stuff that we're doing, the most prevalent ATV that we work on is the YFZ 450R. They just keep rolling them through the door, whether they want, pipes and ECUs or whether it's a complete engine rebuild, because you got to figure the guy that's got an 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, he's already into rebuild stage and then some because of the amount of time. Great strong engine. It's durable. The chassis, I think, are really good. It's a good machine. I had to get used to it, because I was a pro Honda guy. So I had to get used to it, but I kind of like that bike. Now that I, have a better idea of how to work on them. And a lot of cool stuff that we have to do right now. I don't think, like I said earlier in the show, I don't think the industry's dying. I think the industry's growing and coming forward. Something's coming. I can't tell you what, can't tell you from where, but because of the silence from all the manufacturers, I believe there is a 450 coming from someone.
I don't think that Jeff and I have really seen an indication of a 450 coming, but we've definitely seen indications of a problem. And I'm not rooting for bad times for the economy or people or anything like that, but I'm rooting for the manufacturers to have a wake-up call to understand that not everybody wants a cage. Not everybody can afford a cage. Lifestyles don't necessarily make owning those machines easy because they take up the space of a car in a garage if you have a garage to put a car in. You can't put one in the back of your truck. You can't, it takes a big trailer to haul a full-size side-by-side. You can't, and, we're seeing indicators that there's a problem. Now, a booming economy could change all that. And I want the economy to do well, but I kind of want the manufacturers to take it in the nuts a little bit. And it seems that, when you look at the side-by-side segment right now, there's so many rebates on leftover models. Alan Knowles, who does a lot of our West Coast side-by-side testing, he was trying to purchase a Pro R out from Polaris that he got used, that he then used more for a test and a shootout that we filmed. I'm not going to go into the price that they quoted him for the machine, but I will say that the price, he told them no and turned the vehicle in because he's like, I would never pay that for your used car when I can go to my local Polaris dealer right now and buy this same car for $29,000. This was like an upper $30,000 car, and you could buy one for 29. So side-by-sides are just hung up. And the chatter that I'm hearing is not all manufacturers are taking the same level of punishment from the economy. Like, I don't think Yamaha is having the same kind of problems that Polaris and Can-Am are probably suffering with right now. What's the difference? Yamaha doesn't make a $40-something thousand side-by-side. Their most expensive side-by-side, me and Jeff were talking about this the other day, is under $30,000 for a four-seater. So, their sport car, and they don't make, they make a couple trim levels of a YXZ 1000. It's in that $20,000 to $25,000 price range. So companies who are focusing more on building more affordable machines are weathering the storm at this point in the recession that MSNBC will tell you we're not having. Even check out the jobs report. I'm not going to go through all of it. But yeah, we're having an economic hard time right now. And the companies that are focused on building vehicles that are more in line with what a working family can afford are the ones that are actually not taking it on the chin quite as bad right now, as those who are focused on, let's cater to the rich. Let's try to get people to overextend themselves financially to buy overpriced vehicles. And there's been
On that note, Joe, do you know what the this is horrible, the repossession rate is on UTVs in this country right now?
it's probably very bad because credit in the country right now, personal debt in the United States right now is at an all-time high. Savings are at an all-time low. I'm
Well,
sure
the
the reason
auto in the auto industry, not to interrupt you, but in the auto industry, they've never seen anything like it. They're repossessing cars so fast that the financial institutes that have given them the money are going to it's flooding the used car market. The banks don't know what to do with all these cars, and now you're going to have all these used UTVs as well on top of it. It's going to further the financial collapse. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you like that.
Oh, no, it's good. No, no problem. I mean, I was pretty much at the end of my point. It's, you know what? I learned when I was in my 20s. I made some financial mistakes when I was 20, 21, 22, first getting my credit established. Didn't get it. And you got so many young people that are overextending themselves to go buy these things. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen when people have to make a decision between feeding themselves and paying for that toy that they take out 6 times a year to go drive around and drink beer in? And no, I don't advocate that. But, and the other thing is, Jeff, jump in anytime, or let me just be the bearer of bad news. But
Yeah, I'm waiting for Jeff. Jeff's got something on his tongue. He's waiting to spit it out. You know,
I was gonna say that in the direction we're headed, it's only going to get worse. But yeah, I've heard even on the insurance side, these guys wreck these things, total them, whatever, just let them go. They're stacking up in warehouses, but nothing, nowhere to go. So I think it's not only that. I think the insurance side is also going to get way out of control when you go to insure a UTV, which you have to do if you're going to finance it.
okay, check this out. Here in El Cajon, there is a company that all they do is side-by-side insurance work. That's all they do. They have enough of it that they have stacks and piles of these cars that they're doing all this insurance work. It's insane. I think the worst thing that they could have done is, jack the price up on these things, finance them, and then insure them. And they force you to go get an ATV riding certificate, when you're of a certain age, and you have to have a driver's license to drive a car, and you can't ride a 450 unless you're 16, which is all bogus crap, in my opinion. But yet they'll give a UTV to a guy that's never been in the dirt and let him turn him loose and let him drive around like an idiot. And that's why you have all these problems.
The industry is either going to regulate itself with side-by-sides, or the government is going to do it for them, period. It's coming.
And every time you let the government in the door, you just ruined your industry, because the government's just going to kill it, just like they did with three-wheelers. The government response and the mainstream media. Well, Honda didn't help it either. Killed the three-wheeler market. Maybe Honda wanted to get rid of it anyways. Who knows? Who knows what their theory behind it was? But when the government got involved, when the lawyers got involved, and the media got involved, it was over. And that's coming for the UTVs, because you can't have this many insurance claims, this many people that get hurt, and no, they're not punishing the people that are out there drinking and driving and being the idiots. They're going to punish all the people that ran into a tree and broke an A-arm, and then now they have an insurance claim with their insurance because their Polaris was underbuilt.
The problem, and I'm going to kind of come back and I'm going to sort of defend Polaris, because obviously I don't like the way that their loaner organization is handling the media, the people who manage their fleet. But that's not a problem. That's not a problem directly with Polaris, the organization. You know, Alan Knowles put 1,000 miles on a Polaris Pro R. 1,000 miles. That man does not drive like a sissy. He's a racer. He gets his wife in the passenger seat. They go out in the desert and they pound whoops at 60 miles an hour. He hasn't broken anything on that car. Nothing. And you see all these idiots in the chat and in comments and all that. Now, yeah, and you guys are idiots, you know, the ones who are saying this stuff. Oh, I broke my belt. I broke 5 belts in this thing and under blah, blah, blah. Did you put it in low range when you were under 15 miles an hour? No, I shouldn't have to. Oh, well, you're smarter than the engineers at Polaris who put a low range in the transmission so that you had it for those circumstances. But you're smarter than the engineers. You're the smartest guy walking the planet. You decided because you had money to go finance this toy that you didn't need it. You're an idiot. You know, I don't hold that against the manufacturer. If you hit a rock and break something, it's a 2,000-pound car that makes 225 horsepower. Something's got to give. You know, I think part of the bad reputation is just you have a lot of idiots that don't know how to drive and they break their stuff because they wad it up.
So Joe, on that, MX Beans in the chat talks about warning labels on ATVs ruining them. Well, warning labels on everything has taken the common sense out because the society has gotten so stupid that they can't come in out of the rain wondering why they're getting wet. So, you know, yes, I said that, Jeff. I saw your eyes blinking like, oh my God, did he really just say that? Yeah, I did. I said it and I mean it and I back it up. Society is our problem. The education level and the common sense level of our people is a problem because, as Joe was explaining, they're not following the rules. They're not driving things correctly. They're not riding things correctly. And you put all these warning labels on there, and all it's going to do is ruin it because, oh, I have the right to do whatever I want, whenever I want, good or bad. Right, Joe? Is that what you were getting at?
Well, yeah, I do. It is. And it's partly that people think because they go spend $30,000, $40,000 for a toy that it should be indestructible. It's not. Go buy a Lamborghini and run it into something. Go buy a $250,000 supercar. They're probably some of the most fragile cars on the road. And I'm not saying that expensive side-by-sides are the same way, but I'm saying these things aren't indestructible. They're not tanks. They're off-road cars. But another thing I was going to go back to with the whole debacle of it, I like side-by-sides. They're fun. I don't own one. I can't afford one because they cost too damn much for me, you know, and my family to do it. Sport quads all day long. But the problem that we have with side-by-sides is the exact same problem that we had with three-wheelers. It's the same problem. We're just living it again. And that's, you know, if you step onto a dirt bike, if you get on a dirt bike, you know you can crash your brains out. Number one, you can't even put your feet flat on the ground. You're tippy-toeing that thing. So you know if I have to stop and put my foot down, it's going to be very difficult to do. You know, you know you wrecked your bicycle, so you inherently have a level of respect for that dirt bike and for your own personal well-being. One of the biggest problems with the three-wheelers were people just saw them sitting there on the ground, balancing themselves, and they're like, oh, it's stable. It's no problem. And they are. Three-wheelers are really stable until you hit the brakes and the bumps, and then they're very unstable. So people found out, you know, back in the three-wheeler days, when somebody found out on a three-wheeler, chances are they were breaking their own back. They were breaking their own arm. You know, with side-by-sides, I think the problem is magnified because they're like, I'm in a cage. I've got this seatbelt if I choose to wear it. Half of them don't, and they don't wear helmets. And a lot of people find out that sides really quick. Oh, I can get hurt off-roading in these things if I'm not careful. But unfortunately, they're so big, they're so fast, they take up so much space that they unfortunately end up teaching a lesson to somebody else who was just an innocent person out there off-roading. Right now, having to, talk to Jeff, and we hear what people are saying on the internet. ATV guys, dirt bike guys, Jeep guys, mountain bike guys, you name it.
Equestrian, yeah. Side-by-side culture. Side-by-side culture is a problem. And MX Beans brought up a good point on that too. I see over here in the comments about it kind of cracks me up. I see a lot of these guys that are buying the most, they want the fastest and the biggest and the highest horsepower, of these machines that they probably can't handle half of, but then they go out and they ride for 10 minutes and then park and drink a beer, and spend a half hour. I'm like, why did you do that when you could just,
stay on the couch?
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you this, guys. You deal with the factories way more than I do with, the factories that make side-by-sides. Are they talking about grabbing the reins and regulating this, or are they just going to let the government do it? And which will probably shut a lot of their sales down, because when the government comes in, they're going to screw the whole thing up.
Yeah. Can you imagine how expensive? And I don't want to go away from this question because I want to hear what Jeff has to say. But right now, I looked at a review yesterday on a 2-up Polaris Sportsman 570, the dirt tracks, and Luke Lester is walking around this thing, and he's like, "This is cool. This is cool. This is cool." And he's right. And they're very willing to call out when things aren't good. So I'm not saying anything bad about my buddies at Dirt Tracks. Love the Lester family. They're great people. But that ride command that's sitting on top of those handlebars, when you tip that thing over one time, it's a four-wheeler, man. You're going to tip it over at some point. If you ride it, it's going over. You tip that thing over, you're out a set of handlebars and a steering stem. Okay, well, that's a lot of times what I'd get on a sport quad. I'm probably going to bend my bars. I might bend my stem, but you stick a GPS tablet on the top of the handlebars, one rollover costs you $3,000. One rollover. So bringing that back into side-by-sides, with not guys like you, Lenny, not guys like Jeff, not guys like me, not guys like Alan Knowles who've ridden dirt bikes and ATVs and know that stupid hurts and stupid can hurt other people. When the government comes in and starts regulating this crap and they start saying, you got to put airbags in these. Imagine what it's going to cost.
That's coming too.
Yeah, and they're going to price themselves right out of the business. Hey guys, we have great conversations. We got a little off kilter here, bashing the UTVs, not really bashing it, but trying to protect the UTV off-road community, because
exactly trying to protect them from themselves.
Because they need help, and I think the factories, if they want to continue to make money on it, need to get together and make a school, start training people, and start regulating this themselves. And if they don't, they're going to bite it really hard. We started out talking about the legends, and we have 3 more videos coming for the legends. We also have a Briarcliff video coming with ATV-TALK on the road. What do you got coming, Joe?
Well, I screwed up last night because I can't tell time, and I thought I scheduled a premiere for our Can-Am Maverick R test. Now that we've beat up super high performance side-by-sides, we just did a test on the Can-Am Maverick R over on UTV On Demand. It's an incredible machine for a skilled driver who can afford it. And if you have a good skill set, that's an incredible car to look at. I thought I was going to premiere it at noon. I premiered it at midnight last night. Like a freaking idiot. I woke up this morning like 190 views. Oh, shit. So the Can-Am Maverick R test is out. If you're interested in the most powerful sports side-by-side you can get, with over 2 feet of suspension travel at both ends. That thing is wild. I'd check it out. We've got a 1,000-mile Pro R test coming in the next couple of weeks. And after that, we'll have a shootout. The Pro R test will have a lot of good information on setting up the car, because Al did a lot of time really tweaking suspension. And if you're looking for something for the kids, us and Dirt Wheels just dropped reviews of KO's S200 side-by-side, which I would bet money is by far the best handling, best suspended youth machine on the market for side-by-sides. And I think next weekend we'll be out filming the Can-Am 110 XXC for the ATV crowd for younger riders. It's fuel-injected 110. It's a lot like the Yamaha, the Polaris, like Can-Am's base model 110, but the XXC has dual A-arms. It's a little wider. Might be the best kids machine on the market for that 10 and up crowd. So yeah, that's something to see. So lots more coming.
What has Dirt Wheels got going on?
Well, we got our 110 XXC and our S200 articles up online right now if you want to go see them. So screw Joe. And then we're gonna get a
But is
call
it
right
fake
after.
news? But is it fake news?
No, it's a good review.
Excellent.
Some
Awesome.
good reviews on both of those machines. And then what else we got coming up? I was out riding yesterday. I'm working on the second wave of our YFZ build. We got some cool product coming from DBR, ITP tires. We got some new beadlock wheels that are coming for that part. We just finished up the first part with Duncan Racing and everything that you and I did. I'm working on that video right now. I was actually shooting the some ride stuff yesterday to finish up that video. And Kane's got a bunch of trips. Huh?
I hope you did it early.
Early
in the morning.
I did. I went up to Prescott. And it's a good thing I did get up there early, because it dumped rain on me right around 10 o'clock. It just started pouring cats and dogs, which was actually kind of nice, because I came back down the hill and it was 110 and clear down here. So I know we got a bunch of trips coming up. I heard that you're going to be going to one of those trips, Lenny, for Joe Tolle. And with Can-Am.
I didn't say a word, Joe. It's on him.
Talk about.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Come on.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
So there is it is kind of quiet, but there is some new cool stuff coming out from that we've been following from Yamaha, Can-Am, and Polaris. Nothing in the sport ATV side. We just finished up our special sand issue, which will be coming out for October. About the middle of September is when that'll hit newsstands, just ahead of the Sand Sports Super Show, which we will be at also. So looking forward to that.
Last question. We'll go around. MX Beans wants to know, when we go riding, do we go to a place where you have to pay, or you're going to a riding area that's open that we can still ride? When I go riding, I'm going to a desert environment that's, you're supposed to have a pass, day pass or whatever. In some sections, you don't have to have it because you're parking on private property from somebody and it's just open riding. So it's basically there's UTVs, motorcycles, Jeeps, trophy trucks. I mean, there's everything that goes out there in these areas. Usually not all together, but that's where I go ride when I do go ride. I like the hard packed desert more so than the dunes. Joe, when you get to go ride, where do you go?
Well, let me come back to this, because I want to revisit two other little things that I felt like I needed to respond to. ATV On Demand will be plagiarizing Dirt Wheels Can-Am 110 XXC story article. I'll be reading it in my awesome, super sexy voiceover recording that your wives love to listen to. So you don't even need to go read Dirt Wheels for that. I'll come read their story for you in my video. Screw them. Just kidding.
Love it.
But no, when we go ride, We usually go to one of two places here locally. Well, three. We go to a place, Hidden Springs Ranch up near Dayton, Ohio. They're a pay ride park, private park. We'll go to Haspen Acres in Laurel, Indiana. They're a paid, pay to ride private park. Badlands in Attica, Indiana. Went out there once recently, last year. We'll be going there again for some more stuff because that's a great park. I think in Dirt Wheels, in their camping guide, it was rated by readers as like a top place in the
Number
country.
one. Yeah, we got a ton. I think more than 50% of the comments went towards Badlands ORV Park, for sure.
So yeah, we go pretty much to pay to play places. Fortunately, these places are pretty good. They know when we go there and we shoot, we're going to promote them, and they usually take care of us because we take good care of them. We have great working relationships with all our local ride parks. We appreciate them, and hopefully they appreciate us.
Right. Jeff, how about you, brother? I know you're just telling us about going to Prescott, but
Yeah, well, that's public land. We're fortunate to have a lot of public land that we can ride, BLM or state trust land. You do have to have I think it's a $15 a year permit to ride on state trust land, or actually just to park on it. And BLM land you can ride. You just have to have your OHV tag, which is $25 a year. I have a lot of the areas I ride are loops that I raced 20 years ago when I was big into desert racing. I know these areas. I know they have a lot of whoops, a lot of rocks, a lot of incline, everything that you would want in order to test an ATV, sand, rock crawling, all that. So we're very fortunate here in Arizona. And I also go up north, where we get a little bit different scenery. The trails are tighter. There's pine trees. Arizona is not all sand and cactus. We actually have a mountain region. We have a plateau region. There is a very diverse backdrops for our photos and everything. So a lot of different stuff that we can ride here in Arizona that is public land.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate that so much. In the chat, 223 Cycles said that we all need to go to Haspen during Trike Fest. I don't know where that is, but
it's in Louisville, Indiana. I've been there twice. If it's dry, it's very dusty and fun. If it's wet, which it is 50% of the time, it's miserable.
So if it's wet, I'm not going. But as always, everybody, if you could reach out to ATV On Demand, UTV On Demand, subscribe where you can. Dirt Wheels has an amazing magazine that you can still get. If you subscribe, they will send it to your house and you can read in the comfort of your air conditioning. If you live in the hellscape of volcanoes and lava in Arizona, you will be able to stay in the air conditioning and not roast. It's okay. I love Arizona. It's too hot for me right now. ATV-TALK YouTube channel is premiering videos for the Legends race. We will also do a new ATV-TALK on the road, so you'll check that out. That's also a Briarcliff event video. Tuesdays at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, you'll be able to catch our audio episodes on all your audio podcast platforms. On Wednesday, we do a live Instagram show, and we talk to various people. Usually the people that are on our Tuesday drop are the ones that we get on the show. I also like to bring guests on all the time, like Jeff and Joe and others, to talk specific topics. So check us out, subscribe, follow all of the people involved as often as you can, because we need to grow the sport. Joe, in closing, what do you got, brother?
I would just like to confirm that, yes, we are sending Lenny Duncan to an undisclosed location at an undisclosed time for an undisclosed manufacturer to check out an undisclosed machine. So if you want to find out what's what, subscribe to ATV On Demand on YouTube.
Jeff, what do you got in closing, brother?
I just want to go back to one little thing that we talked about, where we do need to do a better job of policing ourselves, because we have a problem with people that just don't get it. going back to what we were talking about, the age in the warning stickers on ATVs. I don't know if you guys know this, but 95% of kids who get hurt or worse on an ATV are riding on an adult size ATV. And I'm talking about kids, 12 and under and stuff. You can't be putting your kids on these big ATVs. And on top of that, more than 40% of those, it's one or two kids or three kids riding on the same full-size ATV. I see it here in Arizona. There'll be kids riding around on these full-size ATV with their arms stretched all the way out. They don't even have the ability to turn this thing. So we need to be, and unfortunately, I think a lot of those people, and we found this out with Yamaha, who just don't take responsibility for their own actions, they're the ones that are suing the manufacturers and making it more difficult on all of us. So we need to do a better job, take more caution, wear your safety gear, and don't be getting into machines that you are not familiar with, or at that skill level to take advantage of all that horsepower. So, we're only hurting ourselves.
I agree. Gentlemen, have an amazing rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much for joining. And everybody, please follow these fine institutions. They're bringing you the stories that you want, as well as ATV Talk is, Dirt Wheels, ATV On Demand, UTV On Demand. And Joe, if I'm not mistaken, don't you have a mountain bike gig going too?
I have a little mountain bike channel. It's not very big. We did a whole bunch of videos on all the trails around our city about 4 or 5 years ago. We were trying to become like a new Bentonville here in Cincinnati. We have some pretty aggressive people that have gotten after it. So we did a bunch of trail videos, done a little bit of bike testing, and maybe we'll do more of it, especially if we can find some enthusiasts who are into contributing to a mountain bike channel. I try not to do too much of it because, my bread and butter and my career has turned into ATVs and side-by-sides. But we do a little bit of mountain bike videos on Mountain Bike On Demand on YouTube. Maybe it'll grow over time. For now, it's just, every now and then I drag a camera out to the trail and film a bike. That's my pastime. It's kind of how I get out of the office and get away from the computer. So love mountain bikes. And we dabble in it. It's just for fun.
Hey, I heard Forbes 500 was going to do a story on your compound. Is that true?
I can't say it this time.
Gentlemen, thank you guys so much. Thanks to all the sponsors, and everybody have an amazing weekend. And everybody in the chat, we thank you so much for being there. We'll talk to you guys later on. Thank you so much.
Happy weekend. Happy Sunday. Go ride.